Hi everyone. So before we start, I just thought I'd open with a little poll just to see kind of what you're all doing with your PR and marketing spend during lockdown. So Ash is going to load a poll. So the question is, how has lockdown affected your PR and marketing spend? And the options are increased, decreased, maintained, or paused. And don't worry, whatever it is, I'll be going on to what perhaps is the right answer right now, but just out of interest to see what's going on out there in your worlds. While you're answering that, while you're pondering, I'll tell you a little bit about me and about the company. So Harvey and Hugo was set up, one second, just jumping ahead with the slides. Harvey and Hugo was set up 11 years ago now. I've got 16 years PR and marketing experience working with a variety of brands, variety of different types, whether it's professional services, whether it's built environment, construction. The company is actually named after my two border terriers. So that's Harvey and that's Hugo. And obviously the dotted around me. I've made an effort with my stand today, even though it's virtual. So Harvey and Hugo, it makes lovable and memorable brands. And I'm really passionate about that side of things. I'm passionate about the science behind the brand, how kind of certain messages, certain images resonate with the limbic part of your brain to make brands lovable and memorable. So that's enough about me. I'm just wondering how everyone's getting on with the poll. Have we got the results in? Right, so the results are on my screen now, and we can see that 19% of people have increased their marketing spend, 25% have decreased, 25% have maintained, and 31% have paused. So we've done a similar survey ourselves, and it was a real similar mixed bag, actually. It's almost kind of 25% across the board, really. So it just shows the variety of people that are being affected and how we're spending our budget. So thank you so much for everyone for taking part in that. And without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me. Hopefully this will go smoothly. And pop this on the screen. There we go. So hopefully everyone can see, but if you're having any problems, pop in the chat box and Ash can help sort that out, or I can help. So PR in a pandemic sounds all scary and dramatic, but actually we're well into it now. Hopefully we're starting to adapt. Covered that slide already about myself, and there you can just see me and the lads again there. It's mainly them that does the hard work, actually. I'm just the face of the company. Content, so we're going to be covering why now is a good time for PR and marketing. 2, how to adapt your strategy. We'll cover those who are doing it well and those not so much, and also some quick wins on how you can help your PR and marketing. So why now? So this graph shows the share of voice rule. And basically this demonstrates why you should be promoting your brand now. And market share is proportional to share of voice. So if your share of the voice is greater than your share of market, your brand is going to grow. However, if your share of voice is less than your share of the market, it's going to shrink. So if you maintain your marketing spend while your competitors are reducing theirs, you will get a positive excess share of voice. And that's what's happening now. Perhaps a lot of your competitors have paused their activity, and perhaps they've reduced it. So that means there's more space for people to hear about your brand. And obviously if you increase it rather than maintain, that's definitely going to lead to an excess share of voice and eventually excess share of the market. Now, just to demonstrate in a pie chart, because everyone loves a pie chart, it helps explain things much more clearly, and who doesn't like pie? So basically, this is a demonstration of it. So all your competitors may have shrunk because they've shrunk their share of voice, whereas your company can then take up more market share. Another example, if you think of big billboards, if you're driving down the motorway, you can see that before COVID-19, there might have been 3 different companies taking these boards. You're the middle one, competitors either side of you. So during it, if they pulled back their spend, all people are seeing is your brand. And after COVID-19, if you've increased your brand, more people will be seeing your brand presence. So don't pull back now, it's the perfect time. Another example is in terms of digital. So there's actually been a 35% increase in people consuming the news. Now, a lot of that will be to find out about all the terrible things that are happening with the world, but also people have more time on their hands, so they're interested in the media a lot more anyway. They're watching TV more, they're reading vlogs more, they're reading the news online more. There's also been a 23% increase in social media use across the board. So even social accounts like Twitter, which it had been dwindling a little bit, they've seen a massive surge. LinkedIn crashed during the first week of the lockdown because so many people were thinking, right, well, I need to grow my brand on LinkedIn. So just another example using kind of visuals. Before COVID-19, there was a lot of noise. Think of loads of birds in the trees tweeting away, and people were so busy, they were rushing about, rushing to meetings, rushing to jump in the car to collect the kids from school. During, there's less travel that's been happening, people are less busy, there's less kind of face-to-face meetings, less travel, and also with the reduced voice, there might just be that one bird in the tree, so people have more time to listen, and also there's less noise so people can hear you easier. And it really works, and there's examples throughout history of people who've promoted their brand during troubled times, and they've seen an effect, an increase in sale, an increase in market share down the line. So this was after World War I, but it's taken into account 3 different groups: those that increased their advertising, those that had no increase or no decrease in advertising, and then those that decreased their advertising. So you can see at first it doesn't make a lot of difference, but years down the line, talking kind of 4 or 5 years here, you can see that those that increased advertising have increased their market share, they've increased their sales, whereas those who decreased, they haven't seen anything. Those that have maintained have seen a steady drop of sales. So you know that now is the right time to do things. So how do you adapt your strategy? So basically it comes down to marketing mix. And hopefully a lot of people in marketing have heard of the marketing mix. And sometimes in these times, you get kind of carried away. Oh, I should be doing this, I should be using TikTok because everyone's using TikTok. But it's important to go back to the basics. So go back to the 4 Ps. I don't want you to suddenly rush in and just start promoting your brand. And I've heard that it's the right time to suddenly start promoting our brand. I need to increase marketing spend. You need to consider your strategy because times are different. Things are very strange right now. Consumer buying behavior is different as well. So you need to consider that first. So let's look at product first. You saw that immediately a lot of alcohol companies, they switched their products and made hand sanitizer instead. So that was adapting their product to the market, and that's always a good idea. For example, for us, obviously we're a service-based company, but we still have products. We have our customers that are on monthly retained PR services. However, we noticed, and we did lose a lot of those clients, and people paused, and that was understandable. So we started promoting our pay-as-you-go PR and marketing services. So they're contract-free, they're fixed fee, they're easy to use. They still allow you to promote your brand, but at no risk of being tied into a contract. And actually that's worked really well. So we adapted kind of our products that we're promoting. Price is also another important thing. And there's a lot of debates online, people saying, don't reduce your price just because we're in it, you're reducing the value of your services. I'd argue against that sometimes. We've done certain price promotions during COVID-19. People are looking for them. You're trying to help people. It can build in kind of good customer relations. What we've also done is added value, which is sometimes a better way. For current customers, we've said, look, we'll do this for you. Because we know times are hard and you want to build that brand loyalty. And things that are done now won't be forgotten, whether that's positive or negative. If you go out of your way to help someone during this, whether that be pausing their contract for a bit, or whether saying, oh, you really need to do this, and they're like, but I can't afford to create that animation right now or that video, we'll do it for you for this, or we'll do it for you as part of your package, or we'll do it for you now, but you don't have to pay for a while. That's really appreciated. So consider different options like that. There's obviously the increasing your products, because we're forgetting that during times like this, there's brands that will thrive in these conditions. generally increasing price is seen as the negative thing, so you have to really manage the PR around that, particularly if you've got a product in demand. We've seen it a lot with the likes of face masks, but you can also be quite clever about pricing strategy. There's a supermarket in Australia, whereas if you bought one hand sanitizer, it was the usual price it was. However, if you bought two, they increased the price to something ridiculous like £80 or $80. And that stopped the panic buying. So, and they did the same with toilet roll, all those panic bought essential items. So you can be quite smart and clever and offer multi-buy deals as well. So think carefully about price before you start promoting. Place is also very important. We've seen this a lot with restaurants. All of a sudden they can't cater for people in the usual place inside the restaurant. However, they've started to offer takeaway services, which have been incredibly popular. And a lot of restaurants who never offered this service, they're going to continue offering this as well as their usual seated service when normality resumes. So there have been business opportunities that have been found. And for us, we have a training company, and we put on monthly seminars, bi-monthly seminars, and we always put them on as physical events. And face-to-face is brilliant, but we've actually found since running them virtually that we've had higher attendance. It's worked a lot better for people. So I think we'll probably, whether we merge the two or we might keep doing them virtually. So think about how product, price and place affects what you do, your offering. When you've got that right, that's when you then look at the promotion side of things and incorporate lots of different elements of the marketing mix. And obviously PR is one essential part of that. So, which companies have been doing it right? And there's loads of companies out there that are doing it right, and loads of companies that are doing it right on a local level as well. But here are some of the big brands that you tend to hear more about. One important thing to add when it comes to this is it's not sometimes about the brands that are doing it right. It's about the brands that are shouting about doing it right. And this is where the PR comes in. Immediacy is also very important for this, because you only want to hear about so many alcohol companies that have started creating hand sanitizer. If you're the 20th in line that started doing it, yes, it might be important regionally in your local area, but nationally, people are going to think it's old news. And so Brewdog were very fast at adapting to producing hand sanitizer, and naturally, because they're very good at PR, they were quick to shout about it, so they got some great coverage. And of course, the Dominic Cummings scandal, they were very quick, and they used their usual sense of humour to adapt to that, to create that Barnard Castle eye test beer, which is just brilliant. And sales of that have been soaring of that particular brand. So it also shows that having a sense of humour, so long as it is carefully considered, it can go down really well. Because there's a lot of brands during this time that think, oh goodness, we can't possibly have a jolly demeanour about anything right now. It's not right. However, I tend to disagree with that. Yes, it's a terrible time for people. We're in the same boat, but sometimes some a sense of humour or some kind of, again, just tongue-in-cheek element of what you do, it can help increase engagement, increase sales, and your brand personality can shine through. Pret, they've managed to turn the tide actually, because they were having a lot of negative publicity around, they'd had series of allergy reactions with their products, but they offered some great discounts to NHS workers, and they were quick to promote it, kept the same unique quirky style with the chopped vegetables to create a heart. And Barbour, fantastic effort in creating PPE. They suddenly adapted, started creating PPE, and I think it was something like 50,000 units of PPE they got out by the end of May for local hospitals, which is wonderful, and created some great PR. And then also there's people who haven't perhaps been doing it right. Wetherspoons, I think it was Tim Martin, the CEO there, he immediately laid off all of his staff. And, you can understand that is very kind of panic-driven time for pubs and restaurants. So you can kind of understand that a little bit. Hopefully he's put them back on furlough now, but it's the way messages are delivered, which is also important to consider within PR. You know, I always remember my mom saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's totally true. So he said it, I'm laying you all off, go and get a job at Tesco. And of course, that's not the right thing to say. Again, there's perhaps some wise words there, because the supermarkets were creating lots of job opportunities, but it's just not what you say. He also then went on to say, the virus isn't spread in pubs. There's hardly any transmission in pubs anyway, which again, we all kind of know is not necessarily true. And then he was in the paper again for withholding supply of payments. And as a big company, there will be a lot of kind of knock-on effects for companies that supply websites, so that's never great. Mike Ashley, he's the king of bad publicity. He thrives on it. You know, they do say there's no such thing as bad PR, but there's definitely bad PR. So he obviously said that what they do is an essential item. They must stay open because people need their gym kit to work out, which, yes, got a lot of backlash. But it's so important to do things right, because if you do things wrong, people are 8 times more likely to talk about your brand in a negative way. And then the people that they tell are then 8 times more likely. So you can see it can spin out of control. I don't know why we're like that as human beings, but it's true. So some quick wins. How can you spread positive PR about your brand right now? And we're quite far into this pandemic now. Hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully people are starting to feel more positive. They're seeing more opportunities emerge. And I'm sure a lot of you have been doing these sorts of things throughout, but maybe it's only just now that you're starting to think, right, I feel ready, I feel comfortable, I feel confident to start doing these things. Or maybe you're just wanting to learn for in the next few weeks for when you are ready. But just bear in mind that excess share of voice messaging, and you know, it's proven, it's kind of fact from past sessions, past downturns, that brands that do invest, or even at least maintain, or even at the very least keep some spend going, keep some visibility out there, they will thrive in forthcoming years. It's having that kind of holding your nerve. They do say that fortune favors the brave, and it's holding your nerve and investing. So number 1, communicate constantly. I'm sure that you're doing that anyway, but even simple things are sometimes overlooked. Pick up the telephone, call your customers, or keep calling your customers. You might think, oh, they don't want to hear from me again, but they do, because they might be going through the same problems as well. But it's just nice to know that you know that you're caring about them. But it's not just your customers, it's your staff as well. Communicate with all stakeholders, even suppliers. Communicate with everyone involved, and communicate in different ways. Social media, and then I'll talk about a few other ways on this list. Number 2, care for your community. Is there any way that you can help your local community? And do it from the heart as well. Don't just do it for the sake of PR. Yes, it can generate some great PR opportunities. For us, it did break my heart to see loads of charities struggling at the start of lockdown, and I think there's going to be more of that to come. So we started giving 20% of all our new pay-as-you-go PR and marketing sales to charities. And it was a charity of the customer's choice. So that's worked really well. And yes, generating good PR from that is a byproduct, but make sure you're doing it because it fits with your values. Write a press release. Like I was saying, there's plenty of space out there. There's plenty of extra people listening. It doesn't have to go in print. It can go online. Create a video. Video is actually the #1 form of content marketing material right now. And anyone can create a video. It doesn't have to look super professional. In fact, the more homegrown it feels, you're more likely to buy into your audience because they know it's genuine. They can see it's you. Obviously, give some consideration before you kind of just turn on the camera and start spouting opinions on things. But all these things, if you think about it carefully, have consistent, clear and considerate messaging, it's going to help you kind of come across well. Keep blogging. You know, again, it's something we can all do. It's generally free to do, and you can put it on your website or create a WordPress blog. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, because blogging will help position you as a thought leader in what you do. Be social. Don't forget about social media. Again, free tools. Even if you need to use an agency, it's worth investing in it. And you can directly engage with your target audience. It's another important communication tool. But also, be social by attending virtual events, virtual seminars. And don't forget about that. It's a new way of doing things. Don't be frightened and put off. And send newsletters. What's obvious to you isn't always obvious to your customers. You might know you're open, you might know you've stayed open, but your customers might not know that. There's businesses that have opened and closed and furloughed people. Communicate, send a newsletter, let them know what's new with you. Even if there's no news, just say, hi, just to let you know, there's no news as yet, but we're really excited to open again soon or start trading again soon. We'll keep you informed. So I think we're at the end of the presentation now, and I will hand over to Ash to see if there's any questions. But just before I do, I just wanted to end on this quote. So great brands build their equity during crises like these. So bear that in mind and be brave.
Thanks, Charlotte. Give a little round of applause. I'm sure everyone at home's doing a round of applause as well behind the screen, but brilliant presentation. I think the audio crackled a little bit in places, so I just want to make sure that everyone, I'm sorry for that, but if anyone did miss anything during the presentation, the recording will be a lot more slick, so look out for that one afterwards. We'll head straight into the questions. Charlotte, a couple of them have come in, so if you've got 5 seconds, I'd love to pose those to you and see what you have to say. The first one was from Lucy. And she works for, and I asked her what type of company she works for, just to get some context. She works in an education consultancy, contracted by the Department of Education. And she wants to know, what extent would you suggest referring to COVID-19 in promotions? And she also gives a little bit more context, saying that, that her key demographic has always been those facing redundancy, irrespective of COVID-19. But I think the point for everyone is, how much do you refer to COVID-19 right now in this position where maybe we're starting to come out of lockdown, and is it a bit of a hype thing that you just bomb now and wait later? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you've got a really good point, Lucy. It's a really good question, because actually there's a lot of people are sick of it now, even with the daily briefings, and people are just like, oh, I just don't want to hear about it. So it's important to consider it and have it bear it in mind, but don't necessarily make it the forefront of all of your messaging. There's no need to, if you're doing a charity campaign, and you're writing a press release about it, perhaps build it into the release further down rather than right further up. Same for your newsletters. So it's those words as well. It's the words coronavirus, it's COVID, it's unprecedented times, all those cliches that people have been playing, virtual bingo with when the briefings have been on, that you want to try and avoid. And equally, it's always important to be quite creative with what you're doing. If a lot of your audience is doing digital things, and you should be doing digital as well, but why not think of some offline marketing you could do? Could you post out some cards? Could you get something printed? Could you look at promotional materials that you get sent to your clients and get things in the post? And yes, it's tricky finding out where they're working from, but it's different ways to kind of capture their attention. So, and it's your messaging around it. Think of things like communicating your way out of coronavirus rather than, we're stuck in coronavirus right now. So use positive messaging on it and talk about the coming out, the other side of things.
Great answer. And I think you kind of touched upon it now, but Nicola also asks that she spends a lot of her marketing budget on trade publications and the events that come with it. But with those being cancelled right now, and the worry that people aren't reading those trade publications, where should we be focusing? And you gave some really good ideas there of trying to be creative and coming at it from a different angle, but I suppose that's kind of mirrored in your answer for this one, right?
Definitely. The only thing I'd add there is use social advertising. LinkedIn's brilliant for this. Share your same articles, keep sharing your same articles, but share them on your website, share them on your social media, and put some really targeted ad spend behind it. So you're reaching the same audience that the trade magazines would reach.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, that's definitely one to take away. The questions are coming in thick and fast now, so we'll try and bash through these as quick as possible. We've got a few minutes left. So What's the difference, Carrie Ann asks, what's the difference between traditional PR and digital PR? We're about to embark on PR for the first time and not sure which way to go.
I'll be as quick as I can with my answers, so sorry if I'm brief. Traditional PR is more targeting press, printed magazines, whereas the digital side is getting web links and backlinks to your story that help with SEO. A lot of kind of publications have high domain authority, so they help drive traffic to your website. It's also about what I just mentioned, creating a story, putting it on social media, targeted ad spend behind it.
Brilliant, thanks. And finally, Catherine Pollett asks, how can businesses that are struggling financially themselves help charities?
You can always give your time, you can give goodwill, you can help them by sharing content on your website, volunteering as well, again, when we're further along, if it's safe to do so. If the charity's outdoors and you don't need to mingle with people, you can still volunteer. But yeah, use your time, use your goodwill, use your networks and share things. Brilliant.
And that brings us to the end of all the questions. So Charlotte, obviously, thank you so much for presenting. I know it was your first presentation in the Marketing Showcase universe, but it was a brilliant one. So really pleased you could join us today, and I'm sure the visitors took a lot from that.
Thank you, I really enjoyed it.